Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, we are going to be answering two questions and trying to solve two mysteries. Number one, what is inside Micah and Dutch's hideout on top of Mount Hagan? And also number two, who is the poor soul or poor victim stuck in the outhouse right next to their hideout as well? So there's actually two stages that can happen when revisiting Micah's hideout on top of Mount Hagan. So you all know you experience this hideout at the end of the mission American Venom. This is where Micah and Dutch are hiding out at the end of the game. However, once you return back to free roam, you can actually go back to the top of Mount Hagan where you will see Micah's half-frozen body there, and you can also grab his pistol, his revolver, which is really cool. Now, when you do that for the first time and when you grab his revolver, the inside of that cabin that Dutch came from is going to be locked. There's no way to get inside. So that's actually the first stage. But if you actually wait a couple of days and then proceed to come back to his hideout, things will be totally different. For starters, obviously, Micah's body will no longer be there. So I don't know if someone came and picked his body up or if it just blew off the mountain or if it rotted away. We really don't know. However, one big difference is you can actually go inside of Dutch and Micah's hideout once you return a second time. And I was always so curious to know what was inside here because the only time during the game in which you can actually go inside is during that cutscene in which John ultimately takes the money that's inside of this little chest, which if you do go back and visit a second time, will no longer be there. So that is really cool that you can go back inside Dutch and Micah's hideout if you revisit a second time. Now, what's actually inside here? Well, not a whole lot. There's this sort of like lookout tower area up top, which is pretty cool, but at the same rate doesn't offer like a ton of amazing sight lines. There's also nothing that you can grab up there. And on the inside, the really only interesting thing that you can take is valerian root, which is like a rare item that you can grab, but those are scattered all throughout the world. It's not something that's unique to this cabin here. Now, outside of that, we see some standard living supplies like boots and blankets and stuff like that. We can see there's 3 bunk beds, or 3 beds in total. I can only assume that one of them is Dutch's, Micah's, and then Joe. Joe is also a member of Micah's gang, and you end up killing him on the way to the top of the mountain. So that would explain why there's 3 beds there. It could also be totally unrelated, and it could be for 3 other people. As I also mentioned earlier, Micah's body will not be there either. However, one thing that is the same and that is sort of a mystery is who is inside of the outhouse. So this little campground consists of that sort of square cabin that Dutch and Micah come from. It consists of like a little shed, and then it consists of a fire pit and an outhouse. And what's interesting is someone looks to be trapped inside of the outhouse. And that is pretty interesting. Now, we can only get a couple of details on who this is because it's really hard to see on the inside. There's obviously no way to open up the door, and we can't glitch our way on the inside. So there's a couple of things I'm noticing here. Number one, our person on the inside looks to have been carrying some sort of splint or a crutch. Like if you broke your leg, you would walk on crutches or something along those lines. And you can also notice that there looks to be a cast or a splint on their right leg as well. They seem to be wearing a red coat, and the only other thing we can tell is they look to have a bald spot in the middle of their head. So those are all the details we can really see, and it looks as if they have died sitting on this outhouse right here. Or at a minimum, maybe got locked inside. We're really not too sure what the details are. So this has begged the question, who is on the inside of this outhouse, and are they significant to the story? Now, I think that there are 2 possible outcomes here. And one of them I think can be debunked pretty easily. So the bald spot right there. A lot of people are going to say, well, that's Pearson because it looks similar to him. He's got that same bald spot, etc. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't make sense because number one, Pearson at the end of the game ends up working at the Rhodes General Store. So we know he's not locked inside. And number two, as we'll find out in a little bit, this person has been in here for a long, long time. And we clearly know that Pearson was a big part of the game. Now, the second theory that I think makes sense is that this is Micah's brother. So as you guys know, Micah actually has a brother named Amos. And Amos writes to Micah, and you can actually find a note that he sends to him when you're in chapter 4. And basically, he's a family man now. He lives in San Francisco. He has a wife. He has daughters. He has completely changed his life. He's now no longer an outlaw. He doesn't want anything to do with his brother, Micah Bell, who is one of the antagonists in Red Dead Redemption 2, as you guys know. So that would make sense. At Micah's hideout, maybe he despised his brother and ended up locking him in the outhouse. However, the only thing that doesn't make sense here is if you go to this location as Arthur, there's going to be a lot of buildings missing because at this point in time, it hadn't become Micah's hideout. It was just a location on the top of Mount Hagan. However, if you go there as Arthur in 1899, you will find this same guy in the outhouse. So I don't think that means that Amos Bell is out of the question here because Micah could have done this at any time. We don't know when that is the case. And maybe that's the reason he came up to Mount Hagan in the epilogue, is because he knew this was a good hiding spot, or at least he thought it was a good hiding spot. But I think the fact that you can see the body as Arthur and you can see it as John means that this has to be some type of weird Easter egg. Whoever used to own that watchtower. So honestly, at the end of the day, it wouldn't surprise me if this is Rockstar's attempt at just some funny and cruel humor to say that this guy died while using the restroom. He must have been on the restroom a really long time in order to freeze to death in an outhouse like this. Now, I have seen some people jokingly say that this is Gavin. Now, there is no evidence to prove that whatsoever, but it would be funny because that would explain why Nigel, Gavin's friend, would be unable to find him because he's frozen on top of a mountain inside of a locked outhouse, which again is certainly kind of interesting. Now, if you're trying to open up this outhouse for yourself with the likes of dynamite or anything like that, just know that the outhouse is completely indestructible. It cannot be opened, and the body on the inside cannot be harmed either. So you're not going to be able to do any damage, open it up, or anything like that. I guess in order to get a clearer view of whoever this person is on the inside, we'll probably have to wait until the game comes out on PC so that we can utilize mod menus and stuff like that to be able to get inside of the outhouse. But until then, I think we're just going to have to guess that it's someone like Micah's brother. It's definitely not Pearson, or it's just a really interesting Easter egg from Rockstar. Now, I was actually going back and watching the cutscene that happens as John approaches Micah's hideout for the first time to see if we could see inside of the outhouse in any way, shape, or form. And you really don't get a clear shot. Number one, the action is moving so fast and you're obviously not really focused on that, but you still don't really get to see inside of that outhouse or figure out who's ultimately in there. Now, this does sort of make me raise a few eyebrows, though, because if this is Micah's hideout, wouldn't he be utilizing that outhouse for himself and the rest of the gang members? And would he have noticed that there's someone rotting away, frozen on the inside? I feel like him or someone in his gang would have done some due diligence and moved it, but apparently there was never a need for him to do so, and it has just remained there for, at least as far as we know, 8 years. Because when you're playing as Arthur, it's 1899, and then when you're playing as John in the epilogue, it's 1907. So that guy at a minimum has been in there for 8 years, which definitely sounds very cold and very icy. But I definitely learned a lot of cool things from this experiment. Number one, I had no idea that you could go inside of the actual building that Micah and Dutch come from. I had always just assumed it was 100% locked because the only time I was up on this mountain was A, during the Mission American Venom, and then B, immediately afterwards to grab Micah's revolver. But if you come back a third time, it will be opened. I just wish there was something more interesting inside here. Like if Rockstar had left a note written by Dutch, or something written by Micah, or maybe we found an extra gold bar that John forgot to pick up, or maybe couldn't pick up because he was carrying it all on his own, and those gold bars are extremely heavy. That would have been really cool to see, but unfortunately, nothing like that is up there. You've just got the Valerian route, and that's it. Is it cool? Yeah, but I think Rockstar could have done a whole lot more. But anyways, that's what happens when you revisit Micah's hideout after you beat Red Dead Redemption 2 and after you go back the first time in order to get his revolver. We notice some changes, like the place is open, his body disappears, which is kind of unique. And we also tried to find out who is inside that outhouse. And that's what I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Who do you think it is? Do you think it's Micah's brother Amos Bell? Do you think it's someone random? Or do you think there's a deeper, darker mystery here? Let me know your thoughts, opinions, and more in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys down there. If you did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new or you like daily Red Dead Redemption 2 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.